You have probably felt that sudden surge of motivation that arrives in the dead of night, whispering that tomorrow everything will finally be different. Yet when the sun rises, that grand vision dissolves into the mundane reality of your old, familiar routines. We often believe that massive success requires massive action, convincing ourselves that a revolutionary life can only be birthed through a single, heroic moment of transformation. This persistent tension between who we hope to be and how we actually live creates a profound sense of failure whenever our grand plans inevitably crumble under the weight of daily existence. In his seminal work called Atomic Habits, James Clear challenges this obsession with the spectacular by suggesting that our lives are not defined by singular events, but by the compounding interest of our smallest decisions. This book argues that the trajectory of your life is determined by the systems you inhabit rather than the goals you set for yourself. If you find yourself struggling to change, the problem is not your lack of willpower or your character. The problem is almost certainly the system of habits that you have unknowingly built over time. Part 2. The architecture of identity. If the architecture of your life is built upon the shifting sands of willpower, it is almost certain to collapse under the slightest weight of daily stress or unforeseen distraction. We often focus on the outcomes we want to achieve, like losing weight, earning money, or writing a book, without realizing that these are merely surface-level symptoms of a much deeper internal structure. This text invites us to consider a radical shift in perspective, moving from outcome-based goals to identity-based habits where the focus is on the type of person we wish to become. But if this is true, why do we still feel empty when we finally reach the milestones we once thought would complete us? The answer lies in the fact that true change is not about having something new, but about becoming someone new through the repeated evidence of our daily actions. Every time you choose to perform a small habit, you are essentially casting a vote for the person you want to be. And consequently, your identity emerges from these tiny, consistent victories rather than from a single, isolated achievement. Chapter 3. The invisible forces of environment. At first glance, it seems obvious that we are the masters of our own choices, yet we often ignore the invisible forces of our environment that dictate our behavior without our conscious consent. We like to think we are in control, but our surroundings act as a silent architect, nudging us toward certain paths while making others feel almost impossible to navigate. This work emphasizes that motivation is highly overrated, and that environment design is the true secret to long-term behavioral change. If you want to drink more water, simply placing a bottle on every desk and nightstand is more effective than any amount of mental discipline you could ever summon. But why do we continue to blame our own character for our failures, when the very rooms we live in are designed to lead us astray? By making the cues for our good habits obvious and the cues for our bad habits invisible, we can actually stop fighting against our own nature and start flowing with the current of our surroundings. Chapter 4. The Plateau of Latent Potential. The most frustrating aspect of any meaningful change is the agonizing delay between the effort we put in and the results we eventually see. This period is what the author describes as the plateau of latent potential, a cold and lonely space where it feels as though our hard work is being completely wasted. We expect progress to be linear and immediate, but in reality, the most powerful outcomes are delayed until the very end of a long and repetitive process. The more control you seek over the timing of your success, the less control you actually have over the consistency of your efforts. Think of an ice cube sitting in a cold room. You can start turning up the temperature slowly without seeing any change, until suddenly, at the 32nd degree, it begins to melt. Your habits function in exactly the same way, quietly accumulating energy and potential until a critical threshold is finally crossed, revealing a transformation that seems sudden to the outside world, but was actually years in the making. Chapter 5. The Friction of the Soul. We often wonder why it is so effortless to slip into destructive patterns, while the path toward excellence feels like an uphill battle against an invisible resistance. This philosophy of increments teaches us that human behavior follows the law of least effort, meaning we will naturally gravitate toward the option that requires the least amount of energy. If we wish to master our lives, we must learn to reduce the friction associated with our good habits while increasing the friction for the things that hold us back. Making a habit easy is not about doing easy things, but about making it as simple as possible to start the process of doing something difficult. But if the goal is to make everything effortless, do we risk losing the very struggle that gives our lives meaning and depth? This paradox suggests that the highest form of discipline is not found in brute force, but in the intelligent design of a life where doing the right thing becomes the easiest thing to do. The last chapter, the infinite loop of becoming. In the end, we must realize that there is no final destination or ultimate finish line where we can finally stop and rest in our perfection. The mastery of our habits is not about achieving a goal and moving on, but about the continuous refinement of the systems that define our very existence. This brings us back to that visceral feeling of midnight motivation, which so often fails us because it looks for a mountain to climb rather than a grain of sand to move. If your life is a product of your architecture, then you must become the architect of your own small moments. We should not be fearing the smallness of the atomic habit because it is the only thing that has ever truly changed the world. The next time you feel that surge of nighttime inspiration, do not ask what grand miracle you can perform tomorrow. Instead, ask yourself what tiny, invisible change you are willing to sustain when the feeling inevitably fades, leaving you with only the system you have built.